resolution to increase stormwater service fees effective July 1st, 2021.
Okay. Richard, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
It's going to take staff just a second to load his presentation, but it's coming up.
Okay, that's
Very
okay.
good.
I could introduce it and then we could go from there. All right. Good morning, members of City Council. President Scorman, thank you for having me this morning. While she's loading the presentation, just wanted to kind of bring us back up to speed about the previous work session. And so this is the item to propose a rate increase for the stormwater enterprise over a 3-year period. There was a package that was provided to council that provided a memo and then some supporting details, along with a couple of exhibits of what the options would look like for various properties within the city. And then there was a presentation that I gave at the work session. Oh, did I introduce myself? I don't think I did. My name is Richard. My name is Richard Mulady, and I'm the Stormwater Enterprise Manager for the city. Sorry about that. And then I had a presentation. We went through that presentation in detail at the previous council work session, but I thought if you would entertain me, I just wanted to go through it maybe a lot quicker, but I still wanted to kind of just go through the various pages of the presentation, just for the benefit of folks that may have not seen that presentation. Is that fair?
That sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. And then please just interrupt me with any questions, or I'll do my best to keep looking up. Does the clicker work? It does. Thank you. Okay, so the proposed rate increase for the stormwater service fee it is held under City Code 14.8107, which lays out for City Council the authority to raise the fee on specific, related to specific reasons. And those were to comply with a valid court order, federal and state permitting, federal and state laws, and or any intergovernmental agreement to which a city was a part of and entered before June 1st, 2016. Right now, I think we've talked about before, the current rates, they were set in 2018 with the initial implementation of the enterprise, and they're $5 per residential dwelling unit per month, and then a non-residential fee of $30 per acre on developed or improved properties. There were really 3 specific reasons that we went into detail. Actually, these are the 3 reasons that we were proposing the rate increase, and that the current revenue for the stormwater enterprise is not adequate to meet. Those were the step up in the minimum expenditures and capital project requirements by the city, Colorado Springs, and the Pueblo County intergovernmental agreement of 2016. We are at the end of the first 5-year, and those increase, and it's shown in some coming slides. The next is the consent decree requirements. That's the federal consent decree for the stormwater litigation with the EPA in the state of Colorado and some subsequent parties. And that agreement was signed on the 11th of last month. And then finally, a small additional cost that from a Colorado law that makes stormwater locates called a Tier 1 and requires us to respond to calls for dig and locate stormwater as a major utility. I did have this slide just to give an idea of what those costs were on an average. These are the averages, and we've seen those in the graphs, but on average, the IGA increases an additional $1.7 million for the stormwater enterprise component and $2 million per year if you add in Colorado Springs Utilities creek crossing program requirements. The consent decree, again, on average, $2.9 million per year. It is front loaded, as everyone knows, with some significant projects. And then the stormwater locates are running about $250,000, and that's for trucks and operational requirements like locators and the equipment they use to do that. We did provide or talk about some guiding principles. They were very important. The first was that the solution resulted in an even percentage, or the most even percentage increase we could get between residential and non-residential rates. The next was a solution that provided revenue to meet those increases in the IGA and CD. Those are apparent because those are now the law. Or I guess they're now legal obligations, is a better way to say it. The third is the solution would not require additional increases within the next 15 years. The IGA has another 15 years left, and the consent decree was negotiated within that term of 15 years as well to make everything fit together. And so our solution, we do not, we wanted a solution where we were fairly confident that we would not have to come back within the terms of those two agreements. And then finally, the solution would result in fees that are less than the average along the Front Range and nationally. And I think that those are really the main guiding principles. We provided some assumptions, went through them in detail, but these are here for folks to look at. These are the accounting assumptions that we use to estimate future growth and collection rates and costs associated with running the stormwater enterprise. Okay, this we brought two options. Those options were as a result of subsequent meetings with council and subsequent presentations. And these were kind of the two most recent options that we brought. These options really tried to do a couple of things. One, have numbers that made sense, or even numbers to the extent we could make them. And then, again, more evenly distributed the proposed rate increases between the residential and the non-residential. We can see that we're proposing a rate increase in 2021. These would be of July 1st, 2021 this year. And then in 2022, those rates would increase again. And then 2023, they increase again for a final time through 2035. So our proposal is that the rate increases or the rates at 2023 would hold steady through 2035. And I think, option two, we spent a lot of time on option two. That's kind of the most even distribution between non-residential and residential. And you can see that there's an upfront 2021 rate increase that is the most significant, and that has to do with the early requirements in the consent decree, which is the result of the stormwater litigation. It's shown in those graphs that we've looked at. So let me go to the options. This was option one, and it was the graph we kind of looked at. I'll spend a little bit of time, and then we'll go to option two, because I think that might be more beneficial. But again, just for people that haven't seen those graphs, for anyone that didn't see the work session, what it's showing us is the operational costs and the capital costs, the cost to run the stormwater enterprise. The blue is the operating and maintenance. That's the people that are involved with the operations of the enterprise, and then all of the maintenance to maintain our stormwater infrastructure. The green are capital projects. Those are IGA related required projects, and that has to do with that list of projects that we have committed to do over the next 15 years. And then the yellow mustardy color are the expected costs to meet the commitments that are in that consent decree for the lawsuit. And what we pointed out, or what I tried to point out last couple of times, is to look at that 25 through 27. That's when some significant projects in the consent decree hit, and we really needed a solution that got us the revenue to climb that hill. And then what we've seen is we're starting out a little low in 2021. The red, if you can see it, is the revenue that would result from the proposed rate increases. The black is our current revenue that we collect. You can see we start off with a little bit of a shortfall. kind of even 2022. This is true for option 2 as well, but we'll look at it. And then 2023, there's a surplus that we can use then to cover the cost that we're short in 2021. And then we get over that hump and we can manage our way using some excess revenue that we think will be there from 27, 28, 29. The next graph, same kind of thing, just with option 2. You can see, I think in this option, even more so than option 1, we really tried to fit the line. So I just wanted to, I've said it before, but I just want to make sure that I say it one more time. You know, we don't need additional revenue. We just don't, we just need enough revenue. So we tried to fit that line as best we could based on the assumptions that we've made, which I think are good. The assumptions that we've made for collection rates and growth are based on the last 2.5 years of the enterprise. So that really shows, I think, in a graphical form what we're trying to do, and it shows the amount of revenue that we believe will be necessary to meet those commitments and maintain our stormwater infrastructure in an adequate way. Just a summary, and I really went through this quick, so I don't want to rehash the whole presentation again, but the two options that we're proposing, they do provide adequate revenue, we believe, to meet those CD requirements as well as the IGA expenditure, minimum expenditures, and the capital project requirements that are in that agreement. The proposed fees, both of them, are below the state average for both residential and non-residential. We did give I gave 2 exhibits. You might remember them because they were like size 4 font, and but they're there and they show actual properties. They don't have addresses. There's no way to know what property it is because that information is obviously private. But those are real properties in the city, different categories. And then those exhibits show some other Front Range communities that have fees, what their fee would be if we use their rate structure, and then some across the nation, and it shows the average. And again, we just wanted to make sure that we're at or below the average, and we are significantly, I think, in most cases. And then the proposed options seek to more evenly increase the fees on that across the board basis for both residential and non-residential. And I think, option 2 really does the best at seeking to achieve that goal. So with that, I just wanted to ask if there were any questions or is there any clarification to the exhibits or any other conversations that we've had?
It doesn't look like there's any other questions. I know Dave would like to make the motion and with comments after the presentation. And any other questions for Richard or anybody else? I think it also should be noted that not only are our fees significantly lower than other Front Range cities, but they haven't been in place very long. And other Front Range cities have had stormwater fees in place in some cases for decades. And so what we've asked from our ratepayers right now, or what we're going to be asking for in the future, is really not nearly as significant as other communities have had to ask for, or not even ask permission for, just levied. And so I think we should compliment ourselves for not being wasteful and really only having to ask for an increase when it's absolutely necessary. Anybody else have any comments? David, would you like to?
Yeah, before I make the motion, just Richard, good presentation. Option 2 is the motion, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I would move approval of 11A. I do have a couple of comments that I think are important to make, and I to the extent I'm repetitive, I apologize. But as a litigator with 27 years of experience as litigation, knowing that the judge had already determined adversely to the city on liability grounds for 3 of the 47 particular incidents that we were subject to.
I think there were several hundred
several hundred. So we've already got an adverse liability determination. The potential was frankly catastrophic to the city. This is a great settlement, and you, Travis, the city attorney, our private attorneys, kudos beyond what I can express up here. Under the circumstances, this is a minimal increase to pay a fine, to pay prior obligations that we were required legally to provide. And under the circumstances, it really is a small increase. I do want to address some of the concerns that have been expressed by citizens. This is the agreement to pay our responsibility for prior obligations that frankly we ignored for a period of time. We simply ignored it. We did not ask our developers to pay for it. We authorized builders and developers to proceed without the city doing its job of oversight. We authorized it, we licensed that, and we said, go ahead and do that because it benefits the city at the time, even though we were not exercising, frankly, our proper oversight. And it was always our responsibility to do this, which is why the city of Colorado Springs was the defendant named in the lawsuit. The EPA sued the city of Colorado Springs, not the developers that we authorized to do what they were doing. They sued, the Pueblo and the other jurisdictions sued the city of Colorado Springs. So I think this is a step of saying this is our responsibility. We're taking our responsibility, and entering into the consent decree is our way of saying, okay, we recognize what we did not do in the past. We are doing it now. You're doing a great job, Richard, you and your department. So under these circumstances, I move to approve 11A wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Okay, Wayne, did you have a comment? Want to make a second possibly, or?
Yeah, I'll second the motion, and I want to add a little bit to what my colleague just said. So in late 2001, I got in a car with Terry Harris, who was the county administrator, and he drove me around the northern part of El Paso County, including a lot of the area around the Briargate, Chapel Hills area. And he explained the drainage process and stormwater and pointed to various projects that he had built decades before when he was a developer that the city had not maintained. And he would show me where this drainage way had not been maintained by the city. It had been constructed by the developer, turned over to the city, and then the city had not followed through. And so there was some of what David described. There was also some of the city not maintaining what they received. This is an obligation we have. The court has said that, and I think that the mayor and his team, Rich and Travis and everyone else involved, has been working very hard to ensure that what results from the lawsuit is actually are actually improvements that will help, as opposed to simply throw away things. And I've asked that question, and I'm satisfied that the overwhelming majority of what's going to be done with these funds is to address our stormwater obligations and to make improvements that will benefit the citizens here in Colorado Springs and throughout the Arkansas Basin. So I believe that is appropriate. Initially, the administration had come up with a proposal that didn't have the same ratios that we wanted, and so we asked them to make some changes, and they did, and I appreciate that. That more equitably distributes the cost between commercial and residential property, that provides sufficient funds and does it in a way that is easy to explain and appropriate and meets our obligations. And so I think our team has worked phenomenally hard. For most of us, we were addressing things that happened long before we came on city council. And we are certainly, Rich and Travis weren't here, but they have tackled this. And instead of kicking it down the road, they have addressed with a program that will be, I think, successful in both meeting the legal obligations, but also the practical obligations. And so I support this, and that's why I second the motion. Thank you very much.
Bill, go ahead.
Oh, just real fast. Another example of why development doesn't pay for itself. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can indulge everybody for a few minutes, because I was on the council that put the original stormwater enterprise in place, and I was also on the initiative review committee that didn't think that issue 300 that Doug Bruce is proposing about commingling enterprise funds with general city was related to it, but the council after me thought it was, and so they took it away, and that's where the shortfall really happened. And then, as part of the history, as we all know, the county of Pueblo approved our 1041 process to allow us to build SDS of about 60 million new gallons of water a day, high quality water from high mountain resources that we are very lucky to have. There's not any community in the country that isn't envious of that water, and we had to agree to put a stormwater enterprise in place in order for that to happen. Well, the vote happened in 2014. The voters did say no, and that's when we got sued. Everybody was waiting to see if we would step up, but we didn't. And that was something that I'm very proud of Mayor Suthers for taking the lead, and in this council and other people in the community for realizing that we had to go back to the voters and ask that we needed to make sure that they felt comfortable. And this is the process that we're in today. We said that we may have to increase this slightly because of the EPA lawsuit, and lo and behold, that's what happened. And so I feel that we've been really forthright. Want to thank the citizens for allowing us to do this. And we're going to keep moving forward and do the right thing in the future from now on with the great work that Richard and Travis and his whole crew are doing. A daunting task. It's not going to get done overnight, but we owe this not only to our neighbors to the south, but to everybody in this community. We have great quality water because of it. And so a big thank you. And with that, Sarah, I'm going to call the vote.
Councilmember Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Gabler,
Yes.
Councilmember Geislinger,
Yes.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Councilmember Murray,
Reluctantly, with apologies to the public, yes.
Councilmember O'Malley,
Aye.
Councilmember Scorman,
Yes.
Councilmember Strand,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
All right, that passes on a 9-0 vote. So we are on to 11.